Welcome to the Half Stacks with Paul and Steph.
Your go-to podcast for tech jabber.
On today's episode,
Side projects.
Hi, Paul.
hey Steph,
What's the nerdy side project you've ever done?
of course it was home automation. You know that. So probably the nerdiest one was I hooked up my shades, the curtains, to a weather API, so that way when it was over, or if the high temperature for the day is over 85 degrees, my shades almost completely close, so that way it keeps the sunlight out, and it actually looks at the position of the sun to figure out when to open and close certain shades. So yeah.
So fancy. I always say that I've built a lot of nerdy things, all dealing with weather APIs. It's just one of those things where it's random enough to where you can do a lot of interesting things with the weather. But I built an app that invests money based on the weather and the chance of rain specifically. Don't laugh at me. Okay, but let me
How do
okay,
you
let me explain.
wait, no, you need to explain the correlation between weather going into
I'm
this.
going to. This is what
Okay.
So what this app did was every day around 7 a.m. it would check what is the chance of rain today, right? So let's say there was a 50% chance of rain. It would then use the brokerage account API to then go invest $50 into some selected stocks of my choosing.
Okay.
Right. And it would do that every day. Obviously, I didn't have it run. It was more about the building than the investing. It was so cool because then it's like, oh, well, if I can build it based off the weather, then what if I use my bank's API to get all my expenses, and for any category of expense that was like a taboo, like eating out sort of thing, it's like, oh, then I can invest the amount I spent eating out into my brokerage account so that every time I eat out, I have to think about doubling the bill. It's like, oh, if I spend $25 on eating out, I'm gonna really spend $50 because I'm gonna invest it. I just like doing random things like that because why not? Right? Like why
Okay,
not?
yeah, that's super nerdy but super cool.
And okay, this is by far the weirdest thing I've built. I built a Chrome extension, which for
Dude.
you know why that's weird, because I don't like JavaScript and it's all JavaScript. I built a Chrome extension, and I said in a previous episode, like I'm a Twitch watcher.
Right.
So I built this Chrome extension where when when someone types a command in chat that triggers a quote that I said, like back in November, when it triggers that quote, it will take an action. It'll either cheer some bits or gift one sub. And like I wouldn't have this thing on all the time because people will abuse it. But it was just so funny to see that happen inside. And the process of building it, it's like I needed to know that I was capturing the right thing. Right. So I would just join any Twitch streamer's stream, not say anything, and just have it console.log every action that it's supposed to take so that I can verify oh, when someone says, hey there, it triggers the right thing. So at least I knew the logic worked, right?
Right.
But even then it was hard because it's like even after doing that, it's like when I tried it in prod, so to speak, in the stream that I intended it to be for, sometimes it wouldn't work. So I'll be this awkward person using this command over and over. No one knows. Like, I'm not just being funny. I'm actually just trying to test my Chrome extension here.
So basically everyone in the chat room was like, what is this person doing? Why are they
Fortunately, no
being
one cares
super
about me.
awkward?
Fortunately, no one cares about me, so whatever. At the time I
You're
built
probably
it,
like,
it was a common enough command to where it was like, oh, she just did it for the laughs kind of thing, right?
okay.
Uh, but yeah, I only use that for a short bit because it's not sustainable financially to do that. But it was fun, right? I actually improved on it later on.
Mhm.
Originally, you'll be so proud of me of my JavaScript skills. Originally, I set it up to just look at the DOM and observe any changes within within the chat container so that I can pick up messages, right? I think that's pretty impressive for how much I don't enjoy JavaScript. And then I moved it so that it doesn't have to observe the DOM. I moved it to use the API and observe messages.
No, nice.
But with Twitch, you can't gift, you can't spend money over the API, right? Like there's no
That
API
sucks.
to like gift a subscription or like cheer or anything. So I still had to rely on the DOM for that part. And it was the cheesiest way. It's like I would manually trigger click events on certain elements and like wait 2 seconds for it to appear and then click the right buttons to do the actions I wanted. And I went overboard and I haven't used it in a few months, but it was really cool when it did work.
You got super excited as soon as it was like, oh, it's actually doing what it's supposed to
I
do.
know. No,
Isn't that amazing?
it was really cool to see it work in the right
Oh,
channel, right? Because it's one of those things where I can't test it in prod,
nope.
right? Like it's actually kind of awkward to build too, because you're like, I don't want the streamer to know that I'm testing something that's gonna be the most disruptive thing ever. But it's like I do want to see this work to some extent, right?
It's always funny because like whenever I'm testing something, it's like all of a sudden like I think, oh God, my neighbors must think I'm insane because my lights are like randomly flashing around the home or shades are opening and closing. They're like, what the heck is going on over there?
This is the actual struggle of side projects is that sometimes testing you have to do very unique things. Like the investing app that was based on the weather is like I just have to pray that it's gonna rain some amount tomorrow. And where I live it doesn't rain all that much. So so how do you go about getting inspiration or motivation to do all your home automation stuff? I assume it's just pure
Usually it's
laziness.
just kind of seeing that, hey, I'm doing something really repetitive and I don't want to do that. And so I'm like, how can I automate that? So, or it could be something like that, or it could be like just saying, oh, actually, this company opened up their API and I now can like connect things together. And it just kind of sparks something in me to be like, oh, okay, I see a solution to a problem I'm having and just fixing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoy using like a mix of APIs.
Yeah.
Like there used to be this website, it doesn't exist anymore, but it did in like the 2014 or so. It used to be called What the F is My Mashup?
Hmm.
Have you heard of this?
No.
So it was like what the F is my mashup.com, right? And you go to it and it'll just like give you a project idea that is a random mashup of APIs out there that you can use. So it'll be like, oh, go use this jokes API to power something. I don't know. Like
Right.
it was just the most random thing. And I would always go there and try to like build what it says, but sometimes they're so not related to each other that you're like, I don't know what to do with this. Right. And I wish that website still existed because I think that's what a lot of people want. It's like they just want something to do and they just want something unique, right? So it's like if you have like 50, a list of 50 APIs that you can utilize, just pick two random ones and try to mash them together to make something funny.
Mhm.
That'd be cool. But unfortunately, I think people always try to build side projects as if it's their next startup. So it's like where I'm like I'm just building stupid things with the weather API and investing or a Twitch Chrome plugin just for fun. I think because we're in like Silicon Valley, like a lot of people also just think, oh, what project can I start building that will turn into a startup, right?
Right.
And I think that that is what actually limits people's ideas is that they want to change everything into a startup or make money off of it somehow.
See, I'm the complete opposite where I'm just like, I would rather find something that I find useful. Like, I don't think that anyone else would be like interested in anything that I do. And it's just kind of like, oh, this is kind of like the thing that bothers me, and so therefore I want to fix it. But I couldn't imagine someone being like, hey, it's hot outside, so let me like build a program that kind of like adjusts my shades accordingly. Oh, I don't think anyone else would use that.
I mean, no, I personally would not do that. Uh for me it's like I think a lot of my side projects are just jokes. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if this happened, right? Or
Mhm.
wouldn't it be funny if every time I did this, something happened, or when, or causing something unexpected to happen, like my Twitch Chrome plugin. It's like, oh, no one would expect a gifted sub when they use this command in chat. Like, it kind of
Yeah.
surprises them, and it takes a minute for them to realize, like, oh, when I did that, this happened. And then there's always a cooldown, so it's like other people will try it, and the message doesn't pop up. So I just think, I try to lean on building things for fun rather than, actual purpose. Like it's not good. Like if I lived in Seattle where it rains a lot, it's not going to be sustainable to invest every time
No,
it rains, know. So it's like, but then you can change it. It's like
I
maybe if
think
I
in
lived
that
in
case it'd be like,
Seattle,
is the sun going to be out today? Okay,
if in Seattle you have to reverse it, right? You have to base it on the chance of it not raining.
exactly.
So let's see. What for like a new developer, how would you tell them to go about side projects? Should people even have side projects?
Or I think side projects are good. I wouldn't see why you shouldn't have side projects.
Don't do side projects. They're bad for you.
But to me, I think the most important part is it's something that actually interests you. Because if
Yeah,
it's not something that's going to interest you, it's not like you're going to actually put time and energy to it.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
find something that kind of fits into whether it's your hobby or something that you already enjoy
Yeah,
and kind of, see if there's something out there that allows you to, develop it, whether it's an application or just a simple hack, like figure it out.
yeah, and I think this is why you shouldn't really ask like, "Oh, hey Paul, what should I build? I want a side project," right? Because
Yeah.
like you can't tell me what I'm gonna enjoy building, and if I don't enjoy it, then it's just like, okay, sure, great idea of not doing it, right? So
Yeah, unless it's like you have like kind of that type of relationship with someone where like you have the same like
yeah,
thought process on things, it's going to be really hard to like find something that two people are deeply passionate about or find very interesting. So like, if you find that person and they're also interested in developing the application with you, great, awesome,
right, yeah.
put your program on it. But most of the times it's just kind of like doing something for your own enjoyment.
To this day, I have never collaborated with anyone on a side project. Like I think my thinking around that is I do enough collaboration at work that I want ultimate creative control over any project I do.
Or originally, like when I was trying to kind of break into tech, I worked with teams and did like hackathons to try like
Yeah.
it was all, but I think it or back then it was more of me trying to network more, than it
Yeah.
was an easier way to network than just going to some event.
Yeah. I was at a conference last week and I went to a hack night where, you sit around with people and you work on your own thing. There's no real collaboration. And I think that is my kind of thing. Like I think in terms of side projects, they're not something I want to really collaborate on, right?
Hmm.
But I like sharing it. Like I like sharing the idea or how I did something. But as far as like the actual creating part, I actually really enjoy doing it by myself, right? Because then
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like it's my idea, I care about it, and I'm sure even like as close as we are working together, you don't want to build my Twitch Chrome plugin for me either. Right? So it's like no one will care as much as you do. And
Yeah.
and the best part about it, I'm like totally like bombing any collaboration right here. But like the best part about it is like when you're done with it, like when you're over the idea, you can just be over the idea, right? It's not
Yeah.
like it doesn't become like, oh, but I still want to work on it and you don't, and all this and that. But the
Yeah.
other option is you build it and once you're over the idea, you put it on GitHub and you let other people have at it, right? And people can spin it off to what they want it to be.
Yeah, or when I was first trying to break in, like developed this little app that it took the Twitter API and took like all the tweets coming in and plotted them on a spinning globe.
Oh, that's really cool.
And so like for the long or like I built it and I just kind of forgot about it. I put it in prod and it was like I think it was on Heroku for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I would see like people like would still hit it up. Like I think it left it up for a good like 2 or 3 years because it still had traffic going. And I was like, why would people even look at this? And then I like finally like one day I was like, it was like probably a year and a half in. I was kind of like, okay, why are people like actually like looking at this? This seems stupid to me. And then I realized like it was people from where like areas that don't have access to Twitter were using it as a backdoor to actually view Twitter. And I was like, well, somehow I managed to help people out without realizing it.
I'm really bad about talking about stuff I built, right? Like
Yeah.
I generally don't put it out there. Like it's on GitHub, but I don't advertise my GitHub account mostly because it's like I want to be able to have public repos without other people knowing, right? So I don't ever really advertise it. But, I think, I think it can be good to like share your work to some
Yeah.
extent, right? As long as you're like not putting the responsibility on yourself to like maintain it. It's like, all right, here's the source code for this. I'm over the idea. You can take it and run with it as you will, but I'm not gonna do bug fixes here because I'm
Yeah.
done. Right.
Like if it's your, you know, if you're really just done, then yeah. But or to me, I kind of also feel like sometimes like I get attached to projects, and so I'm like, well, I'm kind of done with it. I also don't want
Yeah.
anyone else to kind of touch it.
Yeah. And a word of caution is like when you're working with APIs, don't ask me how I know this. Make sure you don't commit your
Uh-huh.
talking OAuth token or API keys to
Uh-huh.
GitHub. So I had done that with the Twitch Chrome plugin and I put it on GitHub and then I proceeded to post about it on Twitter. And then the next morning, I got an email from GitHub saying, hey, it looks like you leaked the token in this file here. And like I was like, oh shoot. I don't
Thank you for letting me know.
and I was like, I don't actually know what someone can do with with that token. But I was like, at the very least, I don't want them chatting as me, right?
Yeah,
Like at
no.
the very least. So I like got on my phone, I logged into GitHub on my phone and I made it private. And I was like, hopefully save myself. Uh, so what would you say is the worst first project? Well, I guess you can't be the worst if it's your first. What would you say is the worst, like shameful project that you've ever done? Like you would be
I don't
embarrassed
know
to
if it
tell
was
someone about it.
shameful, but
The
I
nerdy.
I made a big mistake or bug accidentally where um I basically so in my home there's like a laundry room where if you're running the laundry you're supposed to run a fan. And so I had created an automation that either if it got over a certain humidity, which to me was meant that it was running the laundry, that it would turn on the fan, or if my like washer or dryer were vibrating, it would turn on the fan. So to me, like that logic made perfect sense, except for I didn't take into account that that humidity can rise at any time during the day. And I'm a really, really sound sleeper. And so about 3 o'clock in the morning, my laundry room fan turned on and I didn't realize it until about like 5 o'clock. And so the next morning, my neighbor comes knocking on my door. He's like, if you don't mind, would you not run your fan in the middle of the night? Because it kind of makes a lot of noise and I couldn't sleep last night. I was like, I'm so sorry. I screwed up my program. And he's like, you did what? Like, I was speaking some sort of foreign language. And I was like, yes, like as you can see here, like I started showing him like my automation because I was like trying to defend myself.
You should have just accepted the shame, the blame.
And so I was like, I'm really sorry, it'll never happen again. I fixed the bug, but I didn't realize it. Yeah, so
That's one of those things where it's like you can't test it.
no.
You just have to wait for that scenario to happen. You're like, oh, that's not good.
I mean, the good part or good part of it was like I learned from then on, like, okay, always put a safeguard on. Do not run during these times.
I would say that my a project that I built, which was like years and years and years ago. I actually wrote it in PHP. That's how long ago it was. I haven't written PHP in forever. Um, it was for World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
and I was like very into, I was very into World of Warcraft, and I played a resto druid, right? And
Mhm.
I was never good at judging whether a piece of gear in the game would be good for my character, right? Like at that time, I didn't play much games. I was just into this one particular game. So I needed a way to know whether a piece of gear was good and
Right.
how would it affect my stats. I knew what stats were important, but I didn't know how the gear directly affected it, right? So I built a calculator, right? Like I found on a wiki all the formulas that are used to calculate stats. I tested it out. I made sure that the stats on a piece of gear affected my stats in game the same way it did in the calculator. And so every time I got a new piece of gear and people are rolling on it, before I rolled need or greed, I would enter the stats into this calculator and calculate it, and it would like light up green if it was an upgrade, or it would turn red when
Thank you
it,
for that because I think they incorporated it into the game after that.
and I was like, it was like it was so useful to me during that time I was playing, but I would not, it's not a project I would brag about.
You should. That
It's like, hey guys,
to me is a really helpful project.
uh yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. I think most of my ideas are pretty just silly in nature. Like I have a React app, the one
Oh
of
my
two
god, you built
React apps
React?
that I
Oh my
built.
god, you hate React. What were you thinking?
I built a React app. It was very simple, and it basically told me if I needed an umbrella that day or not. So it used a weather API. We're big fans of weather APIs.
Apparently. Because I have that same exact app.
Not my version.
Oh
And instead
no.
of just saying like, "Oh, bring an umbrella," it would show like a picture of an umbrella if I needed one, or it'll show a picture of the sun if I didn't need one,
Uh-huh.
right? So I thought that was funny. But okay, a non-weather app I built. I have two kids, and when they were in daycare, I would always try to keep up with like any reports that were filed against that daycare.
Mhm.
So I went and looked at a website where all of this is posted. I looked at their network calls, right? So that I can hijack using the same endpoints to get the data. And that's what I did. And I thought this app worked great. And it was built in Vue. Okay.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until a few a few days to a week after I finished it, I realized that all of the stuff I was downloading, aside from the names of the daycare, was dummy data because they blocked public access off in their APIs. But it worked, right? But it was like I realized it when like I clicked on a link and it showed me like just a dummy image. And I was like, wait, but there's an image on the website. Why is it not loading here? I'm like, does it for all of the daycares? That's so dumb.
They're protecting themselves so low.
Yeah. But I thought my app was cool. It was like, oh, you can quickly filter, you know, daycares based on what kind of reports they have, how many reports they have. Like, if it actually worked with the real data, it would
Mhm.
actually be very useful. But nonetheless, apparently that's information that's not meant to be spread around like that.
But I mean, I would know, or I can understand why the company wouldn't want to make it public, but it would have been really useful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, what about like the technical portion of like building the app? Like, how do you kind of prepare yourself for that?
Uh, So when I first started building apps, I only used languages I know. Like the Druid app was in PHP because I knew PHP pretty well back then, and JavaScript and but lately, or for a period of time, I would write all my apps in Java, which was only because I wrote Java code at work, and I thought that that was the right way to do something,
Mhm.
and therefore I use Java in my side projects. Now that was a mistake because after staring at Java code at work all day, the last thing you really want is for your fun and games to resemble work, right?
Yeah.
So to counteract that, I learned Go, and now I write most of my side projects in Golang,
Mhm.
or a language that I don't use often, right? Um, and the way I learned it was pretty much how I learned anything. I installed it on my computer and I brute force my brain into learning the concepts of what it is, how does it work, and occasionally I'll Google something. Fortunately for Go, that's a really easy language to brute force yourself into because there's not a whole lot of complexity to it. Um, but then recently I did something in Rust,
Mhm.
and that has a maybe slightly larger learning curve because they have more concepts to become familiar with. But I still just brute forced it, or I'll look stuff up, right? By the way, I didn't tell you about what my Rust Rust project was. It's probably the coolest
What's your
project.
Rust project?
I built an NES emulator.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I know of a couple people who would really want that.
But yeah, I built it in Rust. And my choice for Rust was A, I wanted to know about Rust, and B, when I hear people talk about Rust, they always talk about the memory safety and all that, right? And I was like, all right, this sounds like a good first project to do this project in, or this sounds like a good first project to use this language for. Uh, in retrospect, it didn't really matter because very little of what I did needed Rust. It just made a learning curve there.
Hmm.
And like I had to learn Rust and then I had to learn how the NES system worked and how they handle, you know, certain bytes or all that stuff. So,
I don't know, Eric. So I'm kind of the same in that, like, I think why I like sticking to like home automation is because it's not UI,
yeah,
and so it's not so much work um, related. And so like I tend to be like, okay, how do I connect the two APIs together? And so like maybe I'm building a bridge every now and then.
yeah,
Most, but for most part, it's like done through portal work.
yeah,
So it still kind of gives me that challenge that I'm looking for, but without like having to deal with, oh, I need to make a pretty UI. Like, I don't have to deal with that portion.
yeah, yeah. I don't blame you. If it wasn't for work, I would never do UIs. Like, quite honestly, I don't enjoy the UI work so much to the point where I have started leaning on ChatGPT to build layouts for me.
Oh my God, no.
But then it never works out the way I want it, right? Because it's like I'll have a certain layout in mind
Uh,
and I'll describe it, but it never exactly comes out the way I want it. So I'll just get like I'll use it as like a starting place. And then it's like once you get to like the CSS part and you're like, oh, this is not how I would do it. Like this is like it's the it's unfortunate that I have knowledge about how to do the UI because then I'm like judging ChatGPT on how they did the UI, right? So it's like it ends up being about the same amount of work because it's like I'm very particular about how I want the markup to look like and what the CSS should be. That it's like I might as well have just written it on my own. Like,
yeah.
and that's the curse of knowledge right there. It's like, oh, you know better and you want to do better. So you have to do
So
better.
of course, let me tweak it just a little bit, and
Yeah.
then a little bit turns into a lot of it.
Yeah. You think you're getting a head start by using like AI to start the beginning parts, and you're like, very little of what the AI gave me is actually still here by the time I'm done with it. So why did I even bother?
But it gave you enough scaffolding that you're like, okay, at least a little bit of
Yeah,
a
it
jump
gave
start.
me enough of a leaping point to be like, all right, let's dive into this HTML and clean it up the way I want,
Yeah.
right? Whereas somehow starting from a blank slate, you're like, oh, I got to write all those divs.
So next question is for your side projects, do you do any like unit testing, or is it just like, okay, what I got is what I got?
It depends. Um, it depends on how testable it is, right?
Okay.
Like for the Twitch Chrome plugin, I did not write a unit test for it. Like
Right.
it wasn't worth it. It was like maybe 50 lines of code
Mhm.
altogether. It wasn't worth writing a test for, and it was so dumb, right? So, but then for things like um the investing based on weather thing,
Mhm.
I actually did because I needed to know I needed to know that the thing worked without me spending actual money for one,
Yeah.
right? And it's fine the first few times, but it's not like a conscious financial decision that I have chose to do. So it's like, all right, we'll do this a few times and then I'm gonna just write a test. And also for like side projects, they're not always necessarily simple. So it's like if you haven't really built it out to a point where you can like tangibly test it, you kind of need a unit test in some sort of way before you get too far down a rabbit hole and
Yeah,
you know, you build out the whole app to find out it's not working, right?
yeah. Or I rarely test any side projects. It's more of like I'm doing it just for my enjoyment, and I don't
Yeah.
like unit testing is like work related. So I'm like, unless I'm trying to learn a new framework,
Yeah.
in which
Yeah.
case then they kind of sometimes tie together with other like testing frameworks, and so that's when I'll
Yeah,
use.
it's really subjective. Like, you know, I'm not looking at my side projects being like, oh, this is gonna be something big. You know, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of I just want to do something fun and what it will be. Now, if it turned into something big, I would probably double down and be like, okay, we need to actually make sure this works, right? But I
Yeah,
think approaching a side project as, you know, something you're gonna turn into a company needs a lot more thought to it, right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think
Well,
we
I
can,
think we covered that one well.
yep. Okay. Well,
Bye.
bye.